Senator Babette.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. And obviously I rise here today to speak on the Treasury Laws Amendment Cost of Living Tax Cuts Bill 2024. Cost of Living Tax Cuts Bill. How's $15 a week going to affect my cost of living? How's that going to help? I'll tell you what, it's not. It's a drop in the ocean, that's what it is. What's $15 get you? What's $15 get you for those playing at home? What, a coffee, sandwich? That's about it. Coffee and a sandwich, you're done. Caesar salad, thank you, Senator Scarr. Now, the federal government promised, over 100 times, I think it was, over 100 times, that they would implement the Stage 3 tax cuts exactly as they had been agreed. And wouldn't it be good if they implemented that Stage 3 tax cut?
Because that would have been very helpful.
You know what? I'll go one step further. How about we cut even more taxes? Because we are overtaxed, we are overgoverned. That's what I think. I think tax is theft at the end of the day. Tax is theft. Cut it back as much as possible. Reduce the size of the federal government. The federal government is far too big. The bureaucracy is far too big. The red tape, the green tape, the black tape, it is too much. Too much. Now, Prime Minister Albanese, Mr. Albanese, he's famous for a quote. What's his quote? I'll read it out. "My word is my bond." Is it really, Prime Minister? He then went on and did the exact opposite of what he had promised.
We haven't changed our position on the Stage 3 tax cuts at all. We haven't changed our position. I can confirm that we haven't changed our position. We haven't changed our position.
Well, I'll make a few points. The first is that the government's position hasn't changed.
They legislated, we haven't changed our position.
I'm shocked. The opposite. He attempted to justify his breach of faith, that's what it is, his breach of faith with the Australian public by insisting that he was focused on helping middle Australians with cost of living relief. That's what happened there. Now, it's clear that Prime Minister Albanese, he sees himself as some kind of modern-day Robin Hood. But it seems to me like it's a false dichotomy. That's what it is, a false dichotomy. Now, you can keep your promise to voters. You can keep your promise to voters, or you can help middle Australia. Why must you choose between two worthy things? Why not do both, Mr. Prime Minister? Just do both. Now, I'm going to suggest a third way, a way that keeps integrity intact, if you can call it that, integrity intact, and a way that helps more Australians with cost of living. Now, I have circulated, or will circulate shortly, a committee of the whole amendment to this bill, which will likely be moved later this week. Now, if supported, that's a big if supported, my amendment will go a long way to honouring the government's promise to the Australian people. One thing that I'd like to see is I'd like to see all politicians, on a side note, stop breaking promises that you make to the Australian people.
But you promised.
Because the Australian people dislike politicians, in my opinion, and there's a good reason why, because promises are always broken, and that's not right. It needs to stop. Stick to your promises. The abolition of a 37% tax bracket was at the very heart of the original Stage 3 reforms. It had bipartisan support, it became law, and it was promised repeatedly by both major parties at the recent federal election. Now, obviously, I'm not going to stand in the way of the government's revised tax cuts bill. I won't stand in the way of any tax cut, because like I said before, I hate all taxes. It's theft. Tax cuts are a good thing.
He's out of line, but he's right. It's great.
But what I will do is I will stand here, I'll stand firm, and I'll ask the government to honour its word.
It's not going to be easy.
Now, my amendment, it would allow the government's proposal to pass in full without a fuss from me, but it would also ensure that the government honours its promise. My proposal is that we abolish the 37% tax bracket in 2 years' time. It's obviously the next day now. Watch what the Labor Party and what the Liberal Party says about giving you extra tax cuts and supporting my amendment to the bill.
Senator Babette, you have the call.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move my amendment on sheet 2347.
So you're seeking by leave to move
Yes.
requests 1 to 5 on sheet 2347.
Yes.
Leave is granted. Senator Babette, you have the call.
I move the amendment.
Minister.
Labor will be opposing this. The government will be opposing this amendment. This amendment would remove the 37% tax rate from the 1st of July 2026. The legislation would be repealed. By removing the 37% tax rate, this amendment would make Australia's personal income tax system less progressive.
Senator Hume.
Thank you, Chair. It's with great reluctance that the Coalition will not be supporting this amendment either.
Which is pragmatic, fair, and I think it's a reasonable compromise. It would allow sufficient time for budgets to adjust, but it would give great hope to the Australian people. How long have we been waiting for these tax cuts now? 5 years or so? What's another 2 more years, right? 5 years or so we've been waiting. Now, if the government was to support my amendment, everyone wins. And the Prime Minister, Mr Albanese, maybe once again his word might be his bond, once again. But let's see if the Prime Minister supports it. Let's see. I doubt he will. You know why?
Don't say it.
Because socialism, it's an expensive business.
God damn.
That's why. You need ever-increasing amounts of other people's money. The government could boast that they went above and beyond to address the cost of living, and all of us can be saved from the growing cynicism of a public which, frankly, is sick of broken promises. Now, if the Liberals were to support my amendment, if the Liberals were to support it, they would be acting like Liberals who truly believe in minimising burdensome taxes, and it can once again work towards a lean government that minimises interference in our daily lives and maximises individual and private sector initiative. Because if you believe their website, and I just quoted that from their website, this is what they believe in. Now, to my crossbench colleagues, I ask that you stand with me to support my amendment, which will ensure that the government honours its repeated promise to the Australian people. Now, for too long, unfortunately, our nation has been hamstrung by high taxing, high regulating and overbearing government from both the left and the right, unfortunately, from both sides. We must allow people to keep more of their money. We just have to do it. We must force our government, and whichever government that is, the government of the day, to live within its means. Now, to quote the great Ronald Reagan, the problem is not that people are taxed too little. The problem is that the government spends too much because, like I said before, taxation is theft. Reduce the size of the federal government. Reduce the size of the bureaucracy. Cut red and green tape. Grab the legislative books and cut them in half. Put them in the bin. We don't need them. What we need to unleash the free market. That's what we need. More free markets, less regulation, less government. Thank you.